Hey everyone, it's the interview queen Alicia Atout here, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to my interview with Sam from Get Cape, Wear Cape, Fly. Hi,
Hiya, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. We've been trying to do this for years, haven't we? So it's quite nice to finally get around to it.
Oh my gosh, I feel like we've been messaging each other back and forth. Sometimes you are so busy, sometimes things are hectic on my end, but we've made it happen. We are here. So I feel like the most appropriate question is just how are you holding up on your side of the world, and how's the start of 2021 been for you?
Very surreal start to the year. It's the first year for me in 15 years where I haven't had a diary with gigs.
Right.
So it's quite odd. Looking forward to a calendar of not really knowing what's going on. I'm in Southend. Southend's we're in hard lockdown in England at the moment. We're not really too sure how long that's going to go on for, but got to keep people safe. Got to do what's got to be done. But yeah, it just feels going to the end of last year. It was like the energy was this year's going to be better, and it feels like we still got a bit of a road to go yet. So it's unusual, that's for sure. It's very surreal.
Right. I mean, how hard is it for you not being on the road, not playing to fans? Like it is literally a 180 being stuck with just, immediate family or super close friends to having thousands of these friends around you. So it must be taxing.
I'm dreaming about sound checks. Like that's where it's, like, but not like just a snapshot, like real time. Yeah, it's frustrating. Like when you get to do something that you love, but you must know this. Like when you get to do something you love for a big part of your life, and then suddenly it disappears. It's not that you ever took it for granted before, but it hits home how much of like the energy that you have in your life comes from that, and learning to adapt and adjust. Like it's okay. Like I'm still able to make music, and I'm still able to, to do things that I love. But yeah, I can't wait to get out playing shows. Itching.
Fingers crossed sooner than later that can happen. And of course, this pandemic has really given people a lot of downtime to focus on other things rather than the traveling or the exploring. So, how do you kind of find more of that downtime has been spent for you now?
Well, I've ended up involved in this kind of quite intense community project in my town. We're looking to kind of there's an old grade 2 listed like venue, and it used to be a ballroom. It was like one of the first ever wrestling venues in the United Kingdom. It had, it closed as an active venue like 20 years ago. And we've together as a group of like 20, 25 people on Zoom, and we're kind of meeting and planning and trying to find a way to reopen it. So we've kind of, it's quite odd, like talking to lots of people from just down the road, but on Zoom, many of whom,
Right. Oh,
yeah, it's been nice to have a project where it's kind of connected to people, and you've got a focus for what it's going to be like when we come out the other side, and how we can be positive in that. Because for the first month, I was just like, how am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then we realised so many people were asking the same question. It's like, okay, so how are we going to do this together? And it's been a really nice focus in a way of kind of putting, that kind of displaced energy into something positive.
that's
And
lovely. I feel like we feel so lost sometimes during this whole pandemic. So the fact that that gives you something to focus to, hunker down on, and just look forward to when it's all over, like that's a nice thing to have in your back pocket, kind of like a silver lining in a sense.
definitely, and also an energy source, something, where it's like something to bounce off of, something to get excited by, because otherwise it's like looking into the future at dates that are moving further and further away, so
Right.
it's even little things to hold on to. But, like we're very determined and we're very energized by the idea of what it might look like. And I think that's been such a driving force. For me, like my two loves are music and wrestling. So the idea that like, down the road from where I lived in the 60s was early British wrestling, and in the 70s was the beginnings of punk in the same building. The idea that we're trying to, as a group of people reopen that's been a really great project to kind of remember that, like, there's people in your town and in your community that, are going through things too. And there's ways to, get together and look forward and be energized. It's been really good. It's been very surreal, to be honest. Like it's not what I expected to be doing this year whatsoever, but I'm glad that I am.
Well, maybe one day we'll be able to come down and see like a rock and roll wrestling show or something at the venue. That'd be so dope.
Yeah, in the round, in the ring. That's literally my dream.
Oh, awesome. Well, before we definitely get into some good old wrestling talk, we have to, of course, discuss the music. You did kick off 2021 by dropping a new single called Red, White, and Blue. So, did you just get to the point where you kind of felt like enough is enough and you really just want to express your thoughts on this mess of a world we're in right now?
Maybe that. Like, I finished it on the 17th, put the video out like the 20th, and then it was up on the, bizarrely ended up on New Music Friday in the UK like a week later. It literally didn't exist before December. Like, in my spare time, I run a recording studio. That's what when I'm not on tour, like produce records. So thankful to be able to have a place where I can make music. And my brain was just like bouncing off its own insides, to be honest, of like the kind of political tension, and also the relationship between America and the United Kingdom, and how both seem to be having very unique ways of handling the pandemic in relationship to how other countries have handled it, and also kind of big changes, presidential election in America, and Britain leaving the European Union. Like, there was a lot going on and a lot of parallels. Then I thought, you know what, like, I've been writing political music for 15 years. I might as well just get it out, just chuck it in the world, see what happens, and just exercise some of those demons.
Well, it seems to have done you some good because the traction on it, people seem to be really liking it, relating to it. And when it does come to newer releases, your latest EP is Hold Tight. And there's a song on that record called Go Figure that I just love because lyrically it just speaks to me, not going a traditional route for work, being in the world of music, wrestling, and sometimes people doubting you, thinking, what the hell am I doing? I really just, it spoke to me. So for you, I don't know if it was that kind of route that inspired it or kind of sparked that idea for that track.
Well, I'm very much of the belief that you've just got to try things, and you've just got to try and live a life that is a good life, that you enjoy, and that you put good things into the world, and you do it because why not? Like, I had to, when I was, a few years back, there was a moment where I got really sick, and I was just kind of like, you know what? There's a real, no one knows what's going on. I think the biggest con that is in life is that anybody truly knows what's going on. Everyone's winging it to some extent. Why don't we just take a gamble on doing things that are different? Why not do the things that you love? And if you work hard and you try hard, even if you're, not the most successful person in the world, it still makes an impact. You can still do, economic success or like whatever you judge things by, like, you can change the world by doing small things, big things, and it's about, for me, it's just take a gamble on yourself. Like, what else, if you're not sure what to do, give it a go. Like, it might go wrong, but like, I don't know, I've had things go spectacularly wrong in my life, and I still think I prefer that feeling to not have tried.
Right. I feel like so many things I've been thrown into, whether ring announcing or the backstage interviewing even, I was just like told last minute, hey, give this a shot. And if I would have said no, there's no way that I would have been where I am now. And there are times where I stumbled and even failed, and you just pick up the pieces and keep going because it's worth giving it a shot, better to have done it than never done it at all.
Yeah, and the things that you learn then make it easier next time.
Definitely.
The other thing, like trying and trying and trying, eventually gets to a point where you're not learning lessons. You're kind of going on this, kind of your own manual of how to do things. And you kind of learn that only really through failure. Because if everything goes right all the time, you just assume that it was either luck or, complete blessed, unabashed talent. But like, it's determination and energy and organization and like driving places and being stuck in a car or being hungry or being, like all of the bits that make up that process of doing things that you want to do that are different, cutting your own path. Like, but yeah, you can build your own handbook on how to, like, not just in how to do the things you want to do, but also how to handle like the pressure and the, the hours or the mechanics of it all. And yeah, I just, the more I do it, the more I'm convinced that I could never do anything else, and why would I want to, I guess.
Right. It's super interesting hearing you talk about it because you're so passionate about what you love. You seem to be such an open book, even within the interview and especially in your lyrics. So, have you always kind of pulled back those layers and been super honest and open, or did it take a while for you to get that comfortable with releasing your music and being like, all right, this is me, take it or leave it?
I can't hide it, so it's just easier not to bother trying
Right.
to hide it. Like I, I'm really passionate about a weird intersection of things. I'm quite a politically minded person. I play acoustic guitar. I'm into drum and bass and dance music. I grew up in a punk scene. I'm a massive fan of wrestling. Like none of those things really fit together, but yet somehow in the modern world these things do fit together. And I, I, I find it take me longer trying to pretend. So ultimately, once I got used to the fact that, some people might not be into it, I was just like, okay, cool. Like, and some people are, and as long as enough people are that it doesn't feel completely bananas, like I'm an island on my own, it's all good.
Yep, I'm the exact same way. I remember in high school, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go in and be an interviewer, and people thought I was crazy. And then when I started doing the wrestling stuff on top of music, they were like, you're insane. But somehow it's a niche, it works, the crossover's there. So definitely we have to talk about wrestling since you are a wrestling fan. I think that's super dope. So have you been a fan for a very long time? Because when you talk about it, it seems like it's been in your life for a while.
Yeah, over 20 years now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's been at least 3 to 5 hours a week minimum for 20 years.
It's a
Yeah, so
lot.
yeah, yeah, it's a lot. Like, if I did the maths, it would probably add up to at least a year.
Right.
Like that, it's just a lot. But yeah, I love it.
Well,
You
I
know,
do have
it's not just like the TV shows. I've been, I like going to, to shows, independent shows, big shows. And, I'm a Wrestling Observer subscriber, listening to Dave Meltzer every day. Same, like a lot of, post wrestling, John Away, the Canadian legends. Like, I love it. Like, I love it, to be honest. Yeah.
one of my favorite things to ask fans who are, wrestling fans who love wrestling so much, who I happen to interview, is just if you could kind of have your own wrestling gimmick, what would that be? Is this something you've given thought to?
It's not something I've given thought to. I've always thought if I was ever involved with wrestling, like, I'd have to be a manager. Like, my pain threshold is so small.
Me
Like,
too.
I did a video, and we shot a video for a record I did a few years back, with Impact Wrestling, and Alex Shelley and Austin Aries were in the video, and they were in the ring, and I was just like walking around it, like, I can't bump, like, I don't even want to fall over. Do you know what I mean? Like I'd have to be a manager, and I'd probably be like Cyrus ECW Network 99, like really annoying and bureaucratic and talking for ages, like or like Early Paulie Dangerously, like I'd be annoying. Do you know what I mean? I think that people find me annoying, so they say it's like turn the volume up on your own personality. That's probably what I'd do. I'd probably have like a giant 6-foot guy, and then I'd really irritate people to the point of for them hating me to burn me out the building, and then I'd imagine that would be my role, smarmy weasel manager.
Oh my gosh, I can envision the whole thing. This is incredible. Once you guys get that place up and running over there, you have to take that manager role. Well, you had mentioned the music video that featured Aries and Shelley. So if you could kind of have that dream collaboration, whether it's a music video, even having some random wrestler sing on your track, like who is a wrestler you would just love to spend a day with?
It's a funny one for me because I've been fortunate to been to lots of events, and like they say never meet your heroes, and you do that in music, and like probably quite similar for an era with certain wrestlers, and then for other wrestlers, like there's a new generation coming through. It's a completely different ball game. Like I think that it's interesting, but like the Young Bucks, like going to ROH shows and seeing the Bucks and Hangman Page and that kind of new era of like people that grew up wrestling fans in the era of wrestling where like you could tell the toll that it took on people, not just on their bodies but on their brains, and the wrestling fans that grew up watching that, living a completely different way and being fan focused and being more inclusive. Like, I think that modern wrestling is a very different beast, and I think it's a product of like the end of that, that kind of 90s into the Attitude Era. The end of that, there was that lull, and then that's when the teenage fans of that era became big wrestling fans. And the fact that a lot of the modern companies are being run by people that are fans,
Right.
that's the side of it for me that is the most fascinating. Like probably the person who's wrestling most at the moment I'd love to meet Tony Khan, because he knows everything. Like, I've never met anyone, like never seen anyone that like can remember absolutely everything. And I've got a bit of a kind of weird encyclopedic memory about certain eras of wrestling. Like when I was on tour a couple of years ago in America, and like we went to the ECW arena. Like we did, we took a detour through Texas to go to the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, Wichita Falls, and for me, like, maybe Tony Khan and Paul Heyman. Like, I love the wrestler, the wrestling side of it, but it's the mechanics behind it that fascinates me, because they pretty much, apart from like the bumps and the toll, the physical toll, it's not too dissimilar a job. We're traveling 5 hours from place to place for like 3 hours of like loud noise, and into hotels, and like it's a kind of, I love the strange parallel that there is between wrestling and music, and the mechanics of how wrestling works fascinates me, because I don't know how it works. It really, like, it makes no sense, does it, if you think about it? But like how much skill and time in terms of not just booking, but like how to make shows work, like that's the thing that I find the most fascinating about it.
It's interesting hearing you mentioning those parallels, because I remember when I did my first wrestling tour, I remember thinking to myself, oh man, I feel like I'm in a band, like it's like you really do. You travel all day and then you prepare for it, like your sound check, the meet and greets with the fans on both sides, and you have those 2 hours, if that, of the show, and then you're off to the races to the next one. So it's interesting hearing your side of it, because the parallels are 100% there.
And I think wrestlers that love music, the wrestlers want to be musicians, and I think musicians that love wrestling want to be in wrestling. Like, there's that other side of it as well. Like, there's some funny moments, like where after the Impact show, like meeting like Flair and Van Damme and like people that I was like, wow, this is bananas. And then like Alex Shelley in particular, like, was asking questions about music, and I just was kind of like, okay, Sam, like, you got to compose yourself and not like just ask every question that's in the top of your head to a wrestler. Like, you've met people that ask you like, what tuning do you use, what capo do you use on this song? Like, do not be that guy. So there's a kind of there's a real odd parallel in that sense as well. It's like a mutual crossover and respect. And I quite like the idea that in the future that becomes, I know that probably the Juggalos, ICP were like the first to kind of do the festivals, and NXT does stuff at the Download Festival in the UK, and I kind of hope that that crossover becomes more of a thing, because I think it would be fun,
Oh,
to have
my God.
To have a stage at one end, ring in the middle, all standing, those kind of events would be pretty cool.
I'm all for it. Well, in my eyes, wrestlers were always like superheroes growing up. They still are to this day. And so the last thing I want to ask you about, just speaking to your artist name, Get Cape, Wear Cape, Fly, if you could adapt a superpower while touring, which would that be?
I'd love for the traveling to be quick.
Okay. So some teleportation.
Yeah, and really, because then, like, the one thing that sucks about being on tour is where like as in Atlanta, and for the first time in my life, and I had 20 minutes. You know, and it's weird because like when I was, you know, there, lots of people would want to go and, you know, want to see like the Olympic Park and all of that. To be honest, I wanted to see like WCW buildings, and like, but yeah, you don't have enough time to actually spend time seeing the cities. So if I could just, you know, click my fingers and be there, I could hang out in the day, have a little nap, play a good show, click my fingers and be somewhere else. Job done. Be great.
Oh, I'm feeling it. That's the one I would want as well. Well, I really do want to say thank you so, so much for taking the time, for hopping on here. I'm so glad we are finally able to make this happen. So happy.
Yeah, wicked. Me too.
Absolutely. Well, to everyone watching, this has been Sam from Get Cape, Wear Cape, Fly. Be sure to check out aliciatout.com for more exclusive interviews and features, and we will see you all next time. Bye, everyone.